guys, this is E10 Sun from SunBros. Today I'm really excited to be bringing you guys this brand new video, but before we get started with that, I want to make sure I remind you guys on how to get entered in for a chance to win our guaranteed skin giveaways that we do every Sunday night during our 1-hour question and answer live stream. All you gotta do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and comment below with your in-game name and which skin you'd like to receive on either the NA or EU servers under 700 vouchers. And remember, the more videos that you do this with that are uploaded each week, the higher chance you have to win. Alright guys, Arena Valor is releasing the biggest update to date on August 30th, coming up here really soon in about a week. I am really excited for the update to cover all of the massive changes. I am having to do this in a 3-part video series. Part 1 was about game changes. We've knocked that out of the park. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. There's a lot of changes to the game, the map, you know, the battlefield, all the jungle minions, the dragon, the dark slayer, all these things are changing. Totally new landscape there. As well as just a lot of optimization changes. Part 2 was about item changes, and there's a whole subset of new support items that you guys are going to want to know about as soon as possible, so make sure you guys check out that video, as well as the deletion of 2 of our already existing items, an Ancestral Glory and Osirian's Buckler, and some changes to other items. So check out part 2 for item changes, and part 3 is going to be covering hero balance changes, and I'm really excited about this one because it's always the most entertaining part of the patch notes. Okay, today we're going to be starting with Illumia. Her magic damage is rescaled for the ability Divine Light from 300 to 600 with 0.55 scaling to 350 to 650 with 0.45 scaling. Overall, damage wise, I would say this is probably a nerf overall. Now, you know, it'll change late game to early game. Early game is probably a tad bit stronger, but late game it's definitely going to be weaker. 10% AP is a solid 150 damage, so it'll be a little bit weaker late game. Banish, slow reduced from 30 to 50% level 1 through 6 to just 30% flat for 1 second. They also increase Illumia's movement speed by 30% for 1 second if an enemy is hit by the ability. So now the slow is reduced at higher levels, but she gets a movement speed buff. And the developers gave us a little information on why. Illumia's combat power is comparatively low in the early game compared to other mages. That's why they buff her damage. Increasing the base values of Divine Light magic damage will improve her strength when clearing lanes and fighting other heroes. However, we also decreased its AP bonus to limit her capabilities in late game. The increased movement speed from Banished will give her more space when dealing with enemies. So I agree. Those are all not really nerfs or buffs. They're more just balance changes. And they're more of just making Illumia. I say overall Illumia's a little bit better, but she's just a little more competent now, in my opinion. All right, next we're moving on to the Flash. So the Flash looks like he's have his base armor increase from 85 to 91. They increase his base HP from 3292 to 3370. So just a couple of small buffs in his base numbers there. And then they fixed the bug where the attack range was longer than the visual effect shown. Now, the tricky part about that is they didn't... they didn't explain what they did, but they did. They decreased the size of the attack range of Mach Punch, and I was aware, being an avid Flash user, that Mach Punch always hit further than it looked like it was going to. That was something I was cognitive of, so it will take a little bit of getting used to. So now Flash has to be a little closer and a little bit more in danger to get Mach Punch off. So they say they've adjusted its survivability accordingly. I don't really think that is true, because the base does determine the way that it scales up. So he'll end up more tanky every single level time he levels up, so we'll see. But next we're moving on to Crixie. Mischief. Chains. The magic damage reduced late game from 950 to 850, but they reduced the AP scale, or they increased the AP scaling from 0.8 to 0.5. After increasing Crixie's damage and cast range in the previous patch, she could seriously reduce enemy HP from a safe distance. Rolling back some of this should return her ability to harass down to a reasonable level. I don't see how they really reduced it much at all. I don't think that's much of a difference whatsoever, especially late game. 0.5 scaling late game. They took away 100, but 0.5, you know, or 5% late game AP bonuses is that's 75. So it's maybe a 25 damage reduction late game. It's nothing. It's inconsequential. Next, we're looking at Jinnar. Jinnar can now move while casting Suture of Pain. Now when Jinnar uses his ultimate to rush into mobs of enemies, using Resonance will no longer stop him. So, interesting, you know, a little buff there for Jinnar. Then moving on to Kali. Spiritual Blessing. Shield points increase from 200 plus 30 per level plus 0.4 AP to 250 plus 50 per level plus 3 AP. So, early game buff. They said Kali's shield is a core part of her playstyle with the increased damage inflicted by mid lane mages in this patch. Her shield HP seemed low. The shield will now be more effective in early game while retaining its current HP in late game. So, let's see. It was going up to 200 plus 30 per level. That's going to be 300, 450. So it's 650 total shield at level 10, or 15 rather, not including the AP bonuses, which at 40% you're talking about somewhere in the range of 600. Let's say 600. So you're talking about a shield in the range of like 1250 now. And then when we talk about now it's a 250 plus 50 per level. 50 per level is going to be 750 plus, that's 1,000 right off the bat. And then scaling is going to give you about 450. So you're talking about 1450 as opposed to the number we said before, which was 1250. So it's changed early game more. It'll still be more late game. It's not the same. It's actually more. So interesting. Okay, then we're on to Marja. Attack speed gained per level increased from 1% to 2%. Okay, so faster attack speed. Dark Pulse. Magic damage rescaled from 350 to 400 at level 1 and from 800 to 800. So, and then the AP scaled down. So, don't really understand that. It's more potent early game and it's less potent late game, which didn't make any sense because Marja was pretty much not good at either early or late game. Ghost Walk. Magic damage increased from 300 to 450, and then 600 to 900, and then 45% HP scaling to 65%. So that's a big buff. So her Ghost Walk got a big buff. I'm assuming that's her ultimate. So that's good for her. Hopefully she'll become a little bit more viable now. That seems like a pretty solid increase. 20% extra damage. You know, there's 65% scaling at that point is going to be a pretty good amount if you go, depending on how you build. So pretty interesting. Marja getting a nice solid buff. Zill, normally I do the ratings for this. I do like 1 to 10, how big of a buff or nerf was it, but there's not a whole lot of big changes yet, so I'm not going to really do that this time around. Just going to kind of describe them to you and what they might mean to him. I still don't think Marja is going to become viable because of that, but it's definitely a change. Definitely a buff. Base attack damage increased from 163 to 173, which is a pretty decent amount. Attack damage gained per level increased from 13.2, decreased 13.2 to 11.2. So that's probably not a lot different. Better early game damage. Maybe get him some better jungle clear early game. Dust Devil. Duration of target movement speed reduction increased from half a second from a quarter second to half second. Additional normal attack damage to monsters increased from 25 to 40. So it's interesting. Wind shift. Immobility caused by a wind shift is shortened. Okay, so I believe that is his second ability. When he teleports, he's kind of immobile for a second, so they've made it, he's able to move around faster. And then Tornado, his ultimate, they decreased the firing range of his ultimate from 6 meters to 4 meters. So solid decrease. So that is a big deal. Real quick, I'm gonna pull out my phone and I'm gonna load the game up just to double check on some of these things. But next we have Ignace. Ignace is getting some changes. Sacred Flame, HP restored from 50 plus 5 per level plus 0.1 to 80 plus 5 per level plus 0.02. So they massively increased the HP that he's going to be able to restore from, let's see, 5 out of 15 is going to be 75. So that's 125 per level plus 0.1. You're talking about probably 225 to 80 plus 5 per level, so that's 150. And then point 2, which is going to be about 300. So you're talking about 450. I mean, that's a solid amount, nothing crazy. And the Rain of Fire, they decrease the cooldown from 12 and 7 to 10 to 7. So it's early game cooldown decrease. Before we move on, I want to make sure I'm double checking my Zill information. Okay, so Zill's ultimate is obviously Tornado, so they decrease the range of that. Oh, you can hear the background noise there. Second ability is the Wind Shift, so he becomes a little bit immobile when he teleports. And they've shortened that, and then they've increased the slow from his first ability. It used to be a 50% slow for 1.5 seconds. Wait. It used to be one. I'm not sure exactly what that is. It's a, oh, Dust Devil. That's the passive. Okay, cool. So they've increased the slow of the passive to half second. That's actually pretty good. So, and then he gets more additional damage. So that's solid for him. Then we're moving on to Superman. Let's see what's going on with those soups. I'll pull up his page. We got base armor decrease, less tanky, a little bit. Early game. Flight hit range is reduced from 4 to 3 meters. Hit range on all the abilities is reduced. So, instead of 25% decrease in his hit range, the cooldown is increased on his ability Kryptonian Strength, which is his first ability. There's been increased from 8 to 9, and then from 4 to 5. So a second across the board, it looks like. Interesting. And then Speeding Bullet, which is, of course, his ultimate. It fixed a bug where it occasionally caused additional damage. The duration of accumulated power from charge up speed rescaled from 10 seconds to 8, 9, and 10 based on level. So that's again a nerf. And then the hit range during flight decreased from, oh, the same thing, decreased the hit range. Collision detection is simply larger than the visual range when in flight mode, making it appear that the heroes behind Superman will push back. We of course experienced that. These changes will ensure that the effect matches the visual. So that's just okay. That's the Superman changes. Then we're moving on to Lupo. Lupo's ability Conquer. They increase the resistance from 20 to 30, 40, 50. That's going to be his, of course, his ultimate. But let's see exactly what part of his ultimate is changing. The ultimate at the moment, it does, he gets attack damage boost, lifesteal boost, and resistance boost. Resistance being his resistance to his ability to be crowd controlled. It was 20% flat across the board. Now it's going to be 30, 40, 50. That's a massive boost. The compensation provided for previously reducing Lupo's movement speed was inadequate, so increasing the resistance bonus from his ultimate will make it harder for enemies to block Conquer using controllability. So it's pretty big up. I think it's big. At level 3, it's more than double the amount. You combine the 50% resistance now with the resistance boots, which, as we all know, give 35%. So now from my 85% resistance is what Lupo can get from those two items. That's pretty solid. I think that's worthwhile. Now I do wonder how well it stacks, because if you buy the item Slick Sting, that gives you 35% resistance for 2 seconds. So now I'm wondering if you can be completely immune to crowd control for a little bit. We'll have to find out when the patch comes out whether that is the case or not. Next, we're moving on to changes for one of my favorite heroes in the game, Zuka. They increase his initial armor, bonus attack damage during, so the chi, let's go into his page real quick. We're going to take a look at it, make sure we're being accurate here. The chi is his passive. Bonus attack damage duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. So every 15 seconds, you guys know, when he's dealing damage to an enemy hero, it triggers his chi and increases attack damage. And it used to last 4 seconds, now it lasts 5. The bonus attack damage percentage is increased from 25 in 40 to 30 in 45. So 5% across the board. Stoked about that. I mean, that's 5% extra damage and longer, which I like as a guy who plays Zuka. That's interesting. Pain on a stick. Distance charge reduced from 3.8 to 3.5. So 8% is not a lot. Then Panda Chariot is decreased from 4.5 to 4, so 11%. So they decrease his range a little bit. Probably not enough to make a massive difference, but they increase the damage of his passive, which I think is a pretty decent thing. So we hope to give Zuka more space to expand his skills. It's time for the master of the quick combo to shine. Interesting. And we have Omen. Okay, so Omen is getting some changes. Let's go ahead and check it out. They're decreasing the hook's range from 5.5 to 5. Again, not a massive decrease, but still a decrease nonetheless. And then Death's Embrace, which of course is his ultimate, they increase the cooldown from 40, 35, and 30 to 50, 45, and 40. So it's a solid 10-second increase across the board. Omen appears to be unstoppable in the dark side lane, making him the most popular hero pick for that role. We want these changes to retain his top position as a one-on-one fighter, but reduce his ability that compels people to fight. Okay, interesting changes on Omen. Next, we're moving on to Briona. Okay. Oh, this is a big buff for Jungle Briona. I'm actually really excited about this one. So let's take a look at this one a little bit closer. Where's my guy Briona here? Okay, Briona's ultimate is Spectral Ire. So now non-hero targets that are hit will also restore HP at half the rate of a hero target. So you guys know when every time he hits somebody with his ultimate's ability, which goes off over and over again, he gets HP back. Compared to other warriors, Briona is weakened more by the Spear, Longinus, and Frost Cape because he has a softer body and lacks damage reduction. Recovering HP from hitting minions while with his ultimate should bring survivability to an acceptable rate. So that's good while you're laning, so you can now get health back. Remember, the cooldown on his ultimate starts at 12 seconds and ends up at 10 with no cooldown reduction. Your cooldown reduction obviously you get a lot lower than that. So Briona can really spam his ultimate. Now he'll be able to heal himself on random minions in lane. If he's jungling, he'll be able to heal himself on jungle monsters so that he can go into gank lanes at full health. I mean, across the board, this is a really solid thing. I think this does buff the concept or the idea of playing Briona in the jungle a little bit more than people are used to. Next, we're moving on to Scud. Furious Charge, of course, Scud's first ability gets nerfed. Fix the bug where enemies were knocked into the air for longer than intended, and then they reduced the airborne duration from 0.75 to 0.5. So a nerf to that. And then they reduced the stun of his Wild Beast Fury, which is his ultimate, from 1 second to 0.75. Scud's burst and control are really strong right now. Very little opportunity exists to counter Power Glove. We want the skill to give players a rush, but opponents should have a chance to sufficiently respond. These changes will allow for that, reducing Scud's overall control capabilities from his entire kit. So yeah, they reduced a lot of his crowd control abilities. And look, we all knew Scud was overpowered. And the reason why Scud was overpowered is because he had the ridiculous combination ability of being able to do enough damage to murder you while keeping you completely crowd controlled. So he could literally kill you without you ever being able to move if he caught you at the right moment at the right time. Next, we're moving on to some work changes. Fix the bug where additional normal attack damage will be dealt when attacking a tower. So that is going to make Rourke hopefully a lot worse at attacking towers. He clearly is bugged right now. He kills towers at an insanely fast rate. Hopefully that's back to a more manageable human rate. It says this one's for you, Reddit. So yeah, Reddit had posted about Rourke being broken and his ability to destroy towers at a ridiculous rate. Next, we're moving on to Zeff. Zeff gets buffed in his armor. His ultimate death from above, the additional magic damage increased. So let's take a look. That's his ultimate. That's from above. So additional magic damage is a part of that. So enemies hit are inflicted with Thunder Crash debuff and take additional damage when hit. So after he ults people, they take additional magic damage with each auto attack afterwards. The magic attack went from 30, 45, 60 to 40, 60, 80, which is a pretty significant increase. It's 10, 15, and 20 damage, and the 80 scaling went up from 0.13 to 0.16. So previous nerfs to the range of his ultimate, plus 2 core pieces of equipment, Spear, Longinus, Frost Cape, puts Zeph's at a disadvantage in the current meta. Increasing the magic damage from his ultimate will increase Zeph's, will enable Zeph's to inflict more lethal damage on electrified enemies. So that's a nice little buff to Zeph's. Then we're moving on to Lindis. Lindis, okay, so let's take a look at this. Lindis is going to be getting some pretty interesting changes now. The Trans-Hop Laser passive, and obviously, as we know, she gets, and when she runs through brush, she gets a movement speed increase. The movement speed is getting nerfed from 40% flat to 25, 30, 35, and 40. So Lindis' early game gets a big time nerf. That movement speed is essential for her ability to move around the map. It gets almost cut in half early game. So that's a big difference to me. It's a big deal. Piercing Gaze is her first ability. And as we know, after learning this ability when Linus hits the same enemy. So this is a part of the passive. The first part, the active part of piercing gates, is simply what makes people visible. The passive reads, after learning this ability, when Linus hits the same enemy 3 times, the target will suffer additional damage, 100 plus the scaling. So now it's going to go from 100 to it's rescaled. 100 to 500 plus 40% physical bonus to 125 to 550 plus 20%. So that's honestly a nerf. It's really a nerf overall. And then of course, Lunar Champion is her ultimate. So Linus calls forth a spirit to attack enemies, dealing additional physical damage, and any bonus normal effects will hit. So the physical damage is reduced from 220 to 160, and then 380 to 360. So it's 60 across the board on all levels, but the physical damage is, they just increased a little, 60 damage across the board. Nothing crazy. So Linus gets a little bit of an early game nerf and then a flat nerf on the ultimate. I don't think that's enough to make Linus not a great hero right now, but it's certainly a nerf. Okay, then we have a change to our guy Baldim, and this is going to be to his ultimate. While Prism, enemies who are not trapped in the prison but are standing just outside of its radius walls will also be slowed by 30%. That is an interesting little development. So it's adding a slow to it. I mean, that's definitely a buff. It's pretty difficult to land Baldim's ult. It is really difficult. Given its powerful advantages, we are not considering changing its range or speed, which is somewhat understandable. We've added a slow effect inside the prison so that it can still split up the battlefield even if it doesn't land. Okay, so now enemies are not trapped. So that's interesting. If they get out of it but are just outside of it, they'll still be slowed. So it may not get them entrapped in there, but it still will slow them, and that may be something that helps turn your team turn to advantage. Now, Toro is not out in N8 but for my EU friends, not yet anyways. They reduced the cooldown of his ability Bull Rush from 10 to 9 at level 1, and then from 7 to 5 at level 6. And then Cracked Earth, they slow down percentage cause the second time the ground is smashed, increase from 40 to 50. Airborne duration, third time the ground is smashed, increase from 1 to 1. So that's 3. That's just buffs across the board. His Bull Rush ability and his ultimate Cracked Earth for Toro. Then moving on to Crashed. Title Rage. Stacks of Rage increased by normal attacks increase from 1 to 2. That's a big deal. That doubles the amount of rage that Crashed increases from his first second ability. Now that helps a lot. And then Aquatic Shield. Stacks of Rage increased by jumping increase from 0 to 2. So now let's see the developer's comments first. Crash slow accumulation of rage makes it seem like he can't keep up with the tempo of the game. Increasing the speed that he accumulates rage will allow him to transform more often. Now, I like this. Crash was one of the more powerful tanks in the game at one point, and then he really quickly fell off because he couldn't really ult frequently enough. Now, this changes things in a multitude of ways. Number one, because you're able to build rage more often, obviously you'll be able to cast your ult more often, but that's not necessarily true. That'll actually change the way we build Crash so that we can get his ultimate up more frequently. We're going to have to build some cooldown reduction, which we before didn't have to do because he couldn't build his rage fast enough to keep up with the cooldown anyways. So this could be a tremendous change for Crash that will take people used to not only ulting more often, which makes him a much bigger game changer, but it also is going to cause people to have to build some cooldown reduction. I think the increase of his rage is enough to where he's going to need some cooldown reduction so that he can do the ultimate even more often. Alright, moving on to Necrophorum now. And Necrophorum has gained his max HP from 190 to 220. That's a lot. That's a pretty increase. That's a pretty solid increase of 21 HP. And then Death Sentence physical damage increased from 180 to 280 plus 180 scaling to 150 to 300 plus 1.2. That's a massive increase. It's lower early game and then higher end game, and then obviously the higher scaling. Now, just to be clear, the buff is to his second ability, which is the one where he jumps. So that's the base scaling. So like from 180 at level 1, 280 at level 6 to 150 to 300. So, and the scaling is up. So that's actually a pretty decent buff to one of his abilities that is used. So Necrophorum is really not super buff right now. The best Necrophorum players in the world are tremendous and they're really potent, but your average Necrophorum player is not, and this might help them be a little bit better in that scenario. Alright, now we're on to Cricknack. Cricknack is getting some changes as well. Bite is his passive. Builds damage increase from 100 to 100, so they increase the 80 scaling, making building a attack damage crit neck even more viable. So you guys remember, the bite aspect is when one of his abilities lands, the next attack deals extra damage. So that's even better now. And then Terrifying Plague is getting changed. Physical damage increase from 410. Okay, so it's just increasing the scaling from 1.35 to 1.6. So again, attack damage crit neck getting buffed again. Horn Rush, the second ability. Physical damage increase. Again, just the scaling, 1.25 to 1.5, another big increase in that. And then Drone Drop, his ultimate, again, a scaling increase only from 2.4 to 2.65. Crickneck's early game damage is good, but he falls off in late game. I agree with that. These changes should improve that. I'm interested in trying out a Crickneck that has even more day scaling. That is a big deal. I'm really interested in that. I really like his... Crickneck feels like a hero who should be really good, but it's just not quite there. Maybe this is the changes that he needed to really get him there. Next, we're going to be going into Violet. Physical damage reduced on Violet from Tactical Fire, her first ability, from, let's see, 275, so the scaling is... So it's the flat is the same. The scaling went from 1.15 to 1. It's a pretty big decrease in damage. Detection range of speed up effect reduced from 8 to 4. So they reduced the detection range of speed up effect in half. So let's read the ability real quick to get a better idea of exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, so Tactical Fire. She rolls forward and increases her next. Okay, a subsequent normal attack within a short period of time retains the range of the normal enhanced attack. I'm not sure exactly what that means. The detection range of speed up effect reduced. We'll have to test out after she comes out and figure out exactly what it means. Because there's nothing in the description that really explains that. Oh, I see what it is. That's the last part of it. Okay. When she rolls, if she's within a certain range of somebody, she gets a 50% movement speed increase. So now it's 4 meters, so she has to really roll right next to somebody in order to get her movement increase now, like right next to them. So that is what's that's talking about. So when she rolls, if she lands near somebody, that movement speed is now not going to go off unless it's 4 meters away. So then her second ability, Fire in the Hole, physical damage is increased. So they doubled the flat across the board, and they doubled the scaling across the board. I actually kind of enjoy this change a little bit. It makes her need to be more balanced. I mean, really, Violet was only really being used for her first ability all the time. Now, that second ability at max level will hit for almost 1,000 damage. 400 plus 1 AD, you can easily build 500 AD, so you're about 900 damage on that. And then they reduce the mana cost from 80 to 50, and then from 105 to 7, 30 across the board. That's a really massive buff to Fire in the Hole that I think will make people really want to learn how to use that ability. It's not easy to hit, but it's potent. The slow's potent, and now you have a really good reason to hit it because it does a lot of damage. Next, we're talking about her ultimate concussive rounds. Physical damage increased from 457 to 4550 and 7. So they increased, and then the scaling is the same. So they increased the damage a little bit. Deals additional physical damage equal to 10% of HP lost by target. So they're wanting to be a finishing move. It does 10% of the HP lost by the target. So that'd be potent against some tanks, especially when they're low on their health. Or finishing up anyone really. Anyone who's hurting will basically get the. So they reduce the mana cost. Violet's first ability is too comprehensive as it encompasses range, damage, and mobility. This made her other abilities seem useless and even a waste of mana. We've tried to move some of the value from Tactical Fire onto her other abilities, reducing the range of her acceleration limits her ability to pursue enemies. That's right, because if you got anywhere near the enemy on rolling, you'd gain a movement speed that would last long enough for you to be able to roll again. While still allowing her to escape quickly if enemies are closing in. So it's still an escape ability. Mana's good at chasing, I understand that. Increasing the damage and reducing the mana cost to Fire in the Hole guts around will now give Violet players more reason to use them and make her a more well-rounded hero, I think. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Next, we're moving on to Timmy, ability Pooty Poots. Oh, he's getting another nerf. Reduce the growth of stun with charge. So let's go read it. Okay, let's read their comments. And they reduced the maximum stun time from 1.5 to 1.2. Timmy is super strong on support. He boosts gold for his teammates, has crowd control, and can resurrect allies. Reducing his crowd control capabilities should allow for other support tanks to be chosen as viable picks. Okay, so that's pretty understandable. Next, we're going to Pura. Pura no longer... So this is Nature's Rally, which I believe is her ultimate. We're going to double check real quick. Nature's Rally ultimate. Okay. Pura no longer has to stand still in one spot to challenge ability. So now Pura can move while casting her ultimate. Let me tell you guys, this is a big buff. It's a big deal. Her ultimate is very potent, but it's extremely difficult to get off. After the ability is triggered, the circle will move with Pura. Well, obviously. That was a given. Magic damage reduced from... So, let's read it up real quick. Oh, so they reduced the damage it does. From 250 and 60 per level to 150 and 35 per level. And they reduced the scaling. The radius is reduced from 7,000 to 5,500. So they're obviously she don't need to do damage. The damage is inconsequential. The whole point of the ult. Let's see, because she can't move during her ult, and the fact it can be easily interrupted, Pura's survivability in team fights and ability to assist her allies are quite low currently. These changes will give her ample opportunity to execute the control and assist capabilities, making Pura more flexible in team fights. That's exactly it. You guys remember, if she goes off for the entire time, it's a 1.5 second stun to everyone in the circle. So now they're focusing on the 1.5 second stun rather than any damage it does. I think that's a seller move. I'm excited about it. Whew. Next, we're moving on to Alice. Alice's ability Sunshine, which so let's real quick double check on Alice. And that Sunshine is her stun. So magic damage increase from 375. So they just increased it late game a tiny bit. I mean, really inconsequentially. It's 375. So yeah, it's just a little bit here. I think 2 per level is what it is after the first level. Mana cost reduced at later levels from 60, 85 to just 60. With the changes to the silence mechanism, which I explained already in the first video, Alice indirectly gets weakened. These stat changes will compensate for this. So I talked about that in the first video. Silence got weakened, and I talked about how it was going to affect Alice, and they're trying to compensate by giving her a little buff for that. It's understandable. All right, now we're on to Talanas. Let's see what happened to good old Talanas. Arrow of Chaos is her ultimate. Fix the bug where the arrow would fail to hit enemies at maximum rates. Very knowledgeable about that bug. That bug was very frequent. Next, we're moving on to Roxy. Alright, Roxy. HP gain, so she's just tanky, or she's less tanky early game. Well understood, thank you. Okay, and moving on to Max. Liftoff, that I believe is Max's ultimate. Fix the bug where the sound effect of Max's ultimate would not stop after he landed, and then distance at which Max can strike the enemy when flying is reduced from 4.5 to 4. Okay, interesting. Next, we're moving on to Wukong. This is our last change of the entire patch. Now these are much smaller changes. There weren't really like redoing here. These were much smaller changes for the most part. There was a couple big changes, but there was nothing massive. These are just small tweaks here and there. Wukong fixed the bug where everyone in the match could hear the sound effect of his normal attacks going off that were strengthened by his passive when he was visible. Okay, I didn't know that's happening, but good to know. All right, guys, that is it for our part 3 of our hero balance changes. And now you guys know all the things that are coming to you August 30th with one of the biggest patches that we've ever had on Arena Valor. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, till next time.